Hello. So this is a video more about what I've been going through and kind of an update. YouTube and life and things like that. I just feel like I feel awkward because it's not. I don't feel like this is the point of my internet communication in the long run. I used to have a strong policy against it being about this, but then, like I said in another video, they're about objective reality. I appreciate people that vlog that way, and over time, information kind of leaks out, personal information. It just feels like there's a necessity if you're going to remain honest. And so I'm doing it, though. So what's been going on? I moved over 6 months ago. I moved to Maine. That's turned out good so far. I really loved Maine. The summer in Maine has been beautiful. We moved here while it was still winter, so we get a little bit of that. Still a little bit shocking as fall kicks in and things start to get cold again, and I'm like freezing cold, and I'm realizing, oh yeah, you're supposed to, this isn't Hawaii, you're supposed to, change the kind of clothes you wear. Maybe it's time to wear long pants. Then we had a couple beautiful days that were like spring and reminiscent of summer and whatnot. But, I grew up in California, or maybe you didn't know that, but I grew up in California and in Colorado too. But in California, my idea of, oh, Tat. Say hello, Tat. Yes. There you have basically this spring that lasts a couple weeks and things are green, and that's how it is all summer in Maine. So it's really quite nice, to the point of being an idyllic kind of summer. And I guess the price we have to pay for that is a snowbound winter eventually. So, but I've really enjoyed Maine, and I moved to my ancestral home here on my father's side. My grandmother and grandfather both grew up in I'm in Bar Harbor, Maine, and where Acadia National Park is. It's beautiful here. And so, I have a great uncle that lives here, a great aunt and uncle that live here, some cousins, or I guess they'd be second cousins, or are they cousins once removed? I think that they're cousins once removed because they're my great uncle's children, but they're actually a little bit younger than me. And oh, Cat wants attention. Does right. Cat's getting attention. And so that's been nice. I got a little bit of work, as I think I've mentioned. I made a video from Santa Fe, so I worked for a company in Santa Fe. I've learned a little bit about what's going on in the industry, and where my current skills are most advantageous from the point of view of the industry, because I did some just sending out my resumes and like, oh, cloud development, that sounds cool, and it's like, oh, this is really a contracting company that converts people to the cloud, and they're not really looking for developers, they're looking for system administrators that specialize in migrating to the cloud, and they thought my rate was kind of high and things like this. And it turns out my area is, one, I'm a full stack developer, can work in the client or the server, anywhere in between, or design a system that has all of the above. And the big data, because since I was working in astronomy and data processing, that's a high data flow context, and it puts me in touch with sort of some of these data processing issues that are part of this big data buzzword. And but I got a contract with a perfect company in that hopefully I'll work some more for them, a startup that's in Santa Fe that analyzes satellite information for farmers, to give irrigation prescriptions and stuff, and kind of try to green up how farming is done, so you don't waste water, you don't waste the gasoline pump in the water, and so on and so forth. And that's neat, converting them to Amazon Web Services, and also the month we were planning to do more than a month. We figured we'd start with a month-long sprint, and I'd work startup kind of hours, which I did, like 100 hours weeks, and you know, I'd assess their situation. I'd get them up and running in a basic sense, not ready to deploy as their main system, but a running system on Amazon Web Services, which is this cloud, basically, this cloud system. And so I did that for them, and that's good because it's only a little over a month of work. And I worked at a rate that's discounted from my published rate, but at my current burn rate, you know, it's a few months that'll help me get through winter, because, you know, we're getting into November and December, not the greatest time to look for work, at least in my industry. I guess in some industries it might be the opposite, but in my industry, not so much. So that's gone well. The system I worked on at my previous employer is an open source system, and I got confirmed, you know, permission and of that to use that. I've been making some demos and some systems with that, and I'll probably use that if I work again for this Santa Fe company. And it's a marketable thing to have as your startup. I've also am part of a partnership with an organization, a business that's just started, that is not a tech startup, but they sell technology. They sell point of sale systems, merchant processing, and this kind of thing. And I've been doing consulting for them. And that machine over there is a point of sale system that I'm setting up and trying to do some quality control. And sure enough, it turns out I'm useful at that, because you know, there were various problems, technical issues, including, it turned out, the license. You know, we got a barcode label printer right there, and a barcode scanner in this box back there, and her, you know, the merchant's license that she paid for evidently doesn't support printing labels. You have to pay for another license. So there's things like this to figure out. So I'm also doing that. I put my resumes out there over the last, you know, few months. My resumes plural. I guess I have more than one version, but and, you know, and I get calls. I got a call last week from a Boston company about that. But that's for a regular salary position, which at this point, I really, that's not what I'm going for. I want to have a contracting, you know, I want to do contracting while I work on these other things. Like I said, this data processing pipeline. I haven't had a chance for about 2 months to work on the ResponseDB thing. I will get back to that during this winter. I'm sure there'll be some downtime from other work. And I'd like the freedom to keep working on those kinds of things. I mean, as far as a wish goes, it would be great if somebody would, like, set up a Kickstarter for something like that. Give me a chance to be one of the workers, because you know, I will keep working on this ResponseDB, these tools that we always talk about and want. But you know, I have to make a living wage here at some point. So, you know, you'll either grab the in-between windows, but if there was a little bit of Kickstarter, you know, I could take a few months and do that. And in 3 months, probably we could have, you know, a pretty good system with, you know, with a nice spectrum of features that we all want. I know what I'm going to do next with that system, which is I want to make it so that with the extension, you can press a button to say, oh, I like this part, or I don't like this part, and that it be time-coded and be able to draw a graph of what people thought in more than one category, and then also use that as to feed an annotation tool similar to the one I made in the past, which I have to remake because that was all in Google App Engine technology. You know, I've also realized that I am, you know, I definitely have some post-traumatic stress kind of symptoms. Today actually was a pretty bad day. might have motivated me deciding to make this video and decide to share this with you. I relive my daughter's death several times a week at least, and things have been going great. I really have loved it here, and that has carried me through, and that's helping keep me functional, and my wife's understanding has helped with that. And it's kind of funny when you're in that situation, because that makes it non-diagnosable. One of the things to diagnose you with things like that as an affliction is that you're not making it. You lost your job from fighting with your boss, and things are falling apart. But if you just put in all the extra energy that it takes to go ahead and keep those things going, so that you're functional, then it's not diagnosable. I went to a counselor, and he was saying that basic thing, and as a result, that maybe it probably is not diagnosable as that, because I'm holding my shit together, but that my symptoms were post-traumatic stress-like symptoms. And basically, you're reliving a past moment as though it was a present moment. It's like if you wake up on a third floor of a building and there's a fire in the lower floors, and you're like, oh, what am I going to do? And I got to do, hey, let's go out on there's a fire escape, and let's, and you're doing all this rush thinking that you would do to survive in a situation like that. But that's in the situation, and with post-traumatic stress, you still feel that way. I like today, I woke up thinking of all the mistakes and things, and what can I do to solve this problem that's already happened, that can't be solved. It feels like a present thing. I heard the post-traumatic stress described as that, and the idea that it literally is this, that you burn a memory into your short-term memory, and it keeps feeling short-term. And the funny thing, for example, in post-traumatic stress is that one of the symptoms is that you've forgotten things about the event, things that it seems like you would expect to remember. And so, if you don't have post-traumatic stress, you might actually remember more about your traumatic experience. By the way, I don't seem to have that symptom, but it made me think. And so maybe it's hard to tell what you don't remember. But you could not have post-traumatic stress and actually remember more about your traumatic event. And partly it's because you're in this present moment mode, like you're dealing with the thing right now, and the thing's already happened, and whatever solution you come up with, and it's gonna be a failure mode because the thing's already over. You can't do that thing. And I've been thinking through, various things. I know, I consider that I don't think everybody that loses a child should feel that that's their personal failure. Things happen, there's tragedies, there's sickness. In my case, I feel like, I know the things I could have done. I went through some of them, or keep certain people away from the situation. Some of them are on my daughter and my daughters, and there's all kinds of responsibility and patterns, interacting patterns to how those events came out. But some of them are just things that I could have done as well myself. One thing was that when I caught my daughter drinking, I thought, and that's all I thought, I told her it was time to go to bed. We'd talk about it in the morning. Of course, I never talked to her again after that. One excruciating thing is that I had asked her if it was just alcohol, if there's anything else, and she was actually like insulted by that. And, Dad, how could you think? And so it's excruciating knowing that some part of my mind was on to what was really going on, even though really I thought she just had a couple drinks. But anyway, the thing is that I thought about sitting on the end of her bed, and I thought, well, that's what I would have done most all of her life. And if she was 8 or 10, if she had a cold or flu or anything that made me a little extra worried, I probably would have just slept in her room. I would have slept on the floor, slept on the end of her bed. I would have stayed awake and just hung out. And I was thinking about doing it, and I thought, well, she's 14. She's going to be fine. So what I did is I stayed up an extra hour. I had been in bed, mind you, and the kids were making noise. So I got up, found the situation, put my younger daughter to bed, and and then I stayed up an hour and checked on her. And then I went to bed. And it's excruciating because I really feel that if I would have stayed in her room and done, babied her in that sense and not thought, oh, she's 14, she can handle, I'll talk to her in the morning, is the more appropriate thing. If I just followed my instinct, I just feel like I would have been there sooner to the crisis. And I feel like there's a good chance I would have woke up and been able to do something and that she'd still be alive. So, I know that it's possible to have been a better parent. I'm not so sure that I could have been a better parent. I put my all into my daughters, and I had custody of them. And I moved to Hawaii so that I could focus on them and get out of this kind of 100-hour week thing, for example, that I just did, and this crazy hard work they expect you to do often in research and development, software engineering, which is what I do for a living. And so I'm not sure that I could have been a better parent, literally, practically, in this real world. But it is possible for someone, and possibly me, to have been a better parent. And I could kind of handle that as an abstraction, but it's excruciating going through that, and I go through that often, and it's like present, and I was wondering how my memory would fade of my daughter, and it hasn't. It's weird how present my memory is of her. And I don't know if that's related to reliving the trauma. I think it's separate. I think there's the reliving the trauma, but there's also remembering the person. And but it's the way I experience it is related because I can wake up missing. I can wake up missing her in this way that's like, surely she's around here somewhere. Surely she is still here. And so, I'm struggling in a lot of ways. Maine has been great. Escaping from Hawaii has definitely helped. And by the way, now the lava's flowing down by my family's house and stuff. It's I don't know if the news has gone national or how, but the lava's doing some crazy stuff. It's about to, pull a Katrina on the Big Island. It's just, take out a 100-year-old town and whatnot. But me personally, I had to get out of there. Hawaii's a lovely place, and that's helped. That's helped me be able to cope. There's a lot of good things going on. I love Maine. Most days are all fine, but I can definitely be sort of ambushed by emotions and not want to get rid of those emotions either. It's like I don't want to push it from my mind. That feels worse. It's even more excruciating trying to push. So it's a very excruciating catch-27 kind of thing where I know the book was catch-22. I was trying to up it. Where my rationality fails and there is no way to think it through, and then I still just want to think it through, and there is no solution there, and I can it's a very much there but for the grace of God kind of feeling that I have, in that I can easily imagine a total inability for me to cope with this if I hadn't left Hawaii and doing these other things, and some of those plans are working. Right now it looks like, I will be able to make a living. Right now things are going according to plan. I'm not getting a lot of work, but the drip of work has begun, so I can see that happening. There's backups. I could go down and work in Boston or New York or something. But then this is maybe and my stepson is adjusted well. My wife loves it here. The pets seem to like it. These things are kind of carrying me through. I can easily imagine not being able to cope with the emotional situation that I'm in. My older daughter has moved she was in LA, and then she moved to Chicago. Now she's back in the Northern California Bay Area, in the East Bay, near San Francisco, and she has a lot of family there on her mother's side, and also on my side, on our side, on her father's side, me, and that's good. It's hard for me to know how to work with her. She's going through a lot of things, and I don't know at all how to deal with things that I disapprove of, or I'm just trying to stay in touch with her and have a relationship with her, but I'm not sure how much we're I think that in itself helps both of us, but indirectly. It's not like, hey, I got a good idea for you, or here's some advice, and the other person's like, oh yeah, great, that sounds good, I hadn't thought of that, that suits me perfect. That kind of connection is still very difficult, and she, of course, is going through her own version of all of this. I, for my part, don't really ever expect this to go away. On the other hand, I think, as I get more steady work and it's reasonable to spend money on this, I think I will go get some PTSD counseling. The counselor that I went to for just one consultation, has a therapy that he does, that I think would be worthwhile trying for me. So other than that, I haven't been watching Gary for a few months since I made that, except I unsubscribed from the Manham channel, but he started doing this draft science stuff, and I was still subscribed to him, so I figured out, what the fuck, I'll watch that. And that's just like, there's really no way for me to respectfully reply to his ideas, because they're just so arrogant, and there's little metaphorically interesting things in there, but I know Gary well enough to know that if I go, well, you got it wrong, but this is kind of an interesting idea, or the spiral makes this sense, and here's the math and related, and blah, Hythloday is really sort of covering that on, where's the math, Gary? Yeah, it's like, well, why should I have to do math? Well, because there's all these things that have certain mathematical patterns, and any theory that you make up has to be able to reproduce that. It's called postdiction. Most people have heard of prediction. Yeah, science is also supposed to be postdictive. It's supposed to be able to predict the things you've already seen. That's the starting point, actually. Then you say, hey, and by the way, this predicts a brand new thing, and if it shows the new thing, then it's like, okay, this isn't just reverse engineering. You're taking us in a forward direction. And Gary's like, no, it's just going to insult Feynman. Are you kidding? And Bohr? Just based on, well, my intuition says that. And then the whole, anyway, I shouldn't even go in. I'm not going to make this a reply to that. But it's really, it's not good. So, what else? Got a cat on my lap. It's late. I took today off. Didn't do any work today. I've worked pretty much every day since I got to this house in April, and long days, and like 4 or 5 exceptions, 4 or 5, 6 days exceptions, so where I didn't work. I'd taken a couple hours here and there to go and went to some school concerts and things like that, but today I took one. I realized, geez, I set up this thing over here and stuff, and I'm like, you know what, I think I better just take a day off. So I did that, and yeah, I guess that's the deal. On the positive side, I think there's this huge thing going on with internet development, and I've been making distributed networked systems for 30 years, and this cloud stuff makes it really easy to deploy that kind of system. So I think I think I have a huge, I do have a skill that's quite sellable. I'm not coming out into the world after 10 years in Hawaii with nothing to contribute. Quite the opposite. So that's all good, and we love Maine, and my cousins have a cruise little tour boat, I should say, here, and we went on that. That was fun, and getting out on the ocean. Went out to the Cranberry Isles, and it's like the Greek archipelago here. There's just so many islands and stuff, and some of them people live on. So it kind of makes me like, if I do get some money, like I might like to have a little boat that can go on the ocean. You could go for hundreds of miles in every direction here, and just pull into a town and eat dinner or go to the theater. It's a pretty fun thing to do in the summer. So, all right. That's that. Cheers.